everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Lifting. Today's episode is being recorded on the Solstice, 12/21/25. I'm here with Ryan pulling cards again, and we are going to go through some really interesting history surrounding Christmas. This is actually going to be pretty cool, I must say. So at this point in time, I now open the circle to true benevolence and no conflicting agendas, and I now do the law of one. When one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. So therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, I ask that only the highest could be done, where negative entities and energies be swept away as of this moment in time. I give thanks this is done, so be it, and so it is. And now with that cemented in place, we can start.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about ancient winter solstice, as it is the winter solstice as of the time we're recording this, traditions that ended up influencing Christmas and becoming kind of what we view as the Christmas season. Because this holiday time was important far before we began the Christmas as it is today. And understanding that to our ancient people, prior to a lot of the mucking up of things that has happened, the holiday time was also important for vastly different reasons. And so we will begin with ancient, like really ancient traditions that involve the winter solstice. And then we'll move into the Greco-Roman time frame and then to the Norse. And this is just kind of an introductory thing, and people can do their own research on the side. And I hope that it opens up people's minds to doing things differently this time of year. Because if you do, the energies will go up around you significantly, even as we're getting into that like dark, sort of depressing time.
Yeah.
When seasonal depression and things like that set in. And that when those set in, it's a lot easier for the bad guys to hit you. Because your guard is not nearly as powerful as it would have been.
Oh yeah, it is incredibly potent right now, and we've been sucker punched here a number of times recently. So yeah.
So to start, I will be talking about really ancient viewing things for winter solstice. This is primarily a winter solstice conversation, and then ancient festivals. So to start, we need to talk about alignments. So winter solstice alignments have been a thing for millennia. Stonehenge, as you can see here, has a winter solstice alignment. In fact, if I go, where did I? Yeah, you can see it here, like on a, well, that's tiny, but you can see it there. And it's on an 80-degree axis, so the summer solstice comes in on sunset that side, on sunrise on the winter solstice on this side, and then winter solstice sunset goes through the stones this way. These were basically set up to catch the light for ritual purposes, and they were used also as clocks to divine seasons and things based on the stone alignment and which direction the sun comes through the stones. They could have figured out when they were to coordinate things like harvest, seeding, and everything else that they needed to do at specific times during the year. This is not only seen in circles, religious circles and glades and things. It was also seen in tombs. The Newgrange Passage tombs in Ireland also have alignments where the sun will come through specific areas at specific times of the year. This one is at the winter solstice at sunrise. It will go in. It happens from the 19th to 23rd of December, so the 5 days, including the winter solstice and two on each side. And it will shine down the tomb into the tomb passage down into the main tomb itself. If you go, there's a great museum that will actually depict how it would look like at any time of the year, based on like a date they set in, but they usually just show the winter solstice one because it's the most topical. But I've been inside the tomb, and it's an extremely interesting experience just to be in there. And to get in there on the winter solstice at sunrise, it's only like 10 people in the world are allowed to go. And it's extremely hard. And it's usually left for basically modern day druids.
Hmm.
But it's an extremely spiritual experience just being inside the tomb. And actually, yeah, you can see all the. This is last year's, and this year's will be up. But there are the people that went, and a bunch of people can go to the outside, but not a lot of people are allowed inside because it's a fleeting moment. And they have celebrations, and it's a major part of the Irish tradition for this time of the year.
Oh yes, I can definitely sense a lot of power around that side. I knew about Newgrange, but yeah, I always sensed that this was like a humongous PowerPoint right there,
Mm-hmm.
even aside from Stonehenge.
It's one of the stillest places I've ever been.
Hmm. I can feel it in the pictures there. It feels very like there's like no noise at all. I can feel that it's like complete encapsulation.
Yeah, when I went, there's a crazy picture of me when I went where I was in like a cowboy hat and I looked like a proper archaeologist. um, so now we're going to move into the Greco-Roman Saturnalia. So Saturnalia started on December 17th and it ran for 7 days. And it was it was sort of the winter festival of the year in honor of the god Saturn, who in Greek mythology was the Titan Kronos. Who I think we figured out is Enlil.
Yes.
Um, and basically, each day was sort of a different celebration. There was Juvenalia, the festival for children. There was a raucous party through the streets. There were days where called where it was like the festival of misrule, where slaves were waited on by the masters, and masters were basically for legally bound by the religious observance that their slaves would be allowed to have all the luxuries that they're never allowed at any other time. There were feasts, there were presents, there were even an early form of the Christmas hat. It was more of just kind of how do I describe it? It was not really exactly a Christmas hat like we would view it today, but it was similar in shape with a domed top. It resembles a Pilos helmet a lot. I think they were called Pilia, but they weren't like pointy hat with a ball on the top, but they were an early form of that. This festival usually included like animal sacrifice, and then there was a symbolic giving the food to the god, and then the rest of the people would eat it. Um, it was extremely important as well because it allowed the Romans, who are a very strict society in their mannerisms, to cut loose for a week. And it would allow the people a reprieve from the daily nonsense that they were going through and encourage fun and libation. And when Christianity came into the Roman Empire, they took the date and just basically made Christmas. And Christmas traditions going into the Middle Ages until even the early modern period, we're still very much the raucous Saturnalia style parties and drunken brawls, and usually you would still have in the Middle Ages and like the colonial period a Lord of Misrule at Christmas celebrations, which was kind of like a poor drunkard that would be given kind of leave to be in charge. And this idea of that even like went into some earlier Santa Claus mythology, where some before they settled on like the reindeer drawn sleigh, there was a drunk Santa Claus was actually depicted in one picture as a drunkard with a turkey driven sleigh.
Huh.
um so he is this festival really kind of set the idea for how Christmas would be celebrated throughout the Middle Ages and going into most of history of Christmas actually. And it was only through sort of the Victorian period that the ideas of Christmas that we have today really came into effect. Um, in Germany, they would have been bringing in trees, and we'll actually go into Mithra now. Mithra was a Persian god of the unconquerable sun, covenants, and truth and light. Basically, he was a sun god, and his cult became popular with Romans in the Eastern Roman Empire, in basically the Levant and Anatolia, and it spread quickly into the elite in Rome as a very early, almost monotheistic religion in Rome. It was a mystery cult, which were very common in the ancient worlds. They would have their own like, ooh,
Hmm.
like what's going on in their style worship. It was relatively hard to get in if you weren't already inside of it. And Mithra's origin story was very similar to that of the Jesus Christ origin story, where he was found by shepherds in a field on December 25th, because that is his birthday.
Hmm.
And Mithra's worship was so influential that it is believed that a lot of the founding stuff for the Roman Catholic Church just was kind of copy pasted as Roman,
They like to steal a lot of that. Yeah.
as Christian, and it was a way to ingratiate the religion, the new religion, into a familiar way, which was very common, especially for the Romans, because the Romans, as we've talked about in other episodes, often took the local ideas of the people that they came into contact to and equated them to their own gods. So when Christianity became an official Roman religion, they just took the stuff that they knew from other gods that they had in their views and mixed them so that it worked for their pantheon. Christianity did become the legal religion in Rome, and it was ultimately able to suppress the pagan religions that became before. But to get it in the door, they had to do this sort of trick, this sort of basically bamboozling in order to get the people to be willing to even entertain it. The idea that Christianity was now a version of Mithra worship that anyone could do, um, probably is what allowed it to catch on in such a way in Rome. Especially because before it was like an elite and higher society and military religion. You basically were brought into it either if you were born into it or you served with people who did it and they brought you into it. It was very uncommon to just like get into there unless you were of a high office or something outside of that. This would have been later empire. This would not have been like height of Roman Julius Caesar era.
Hmm.
This would have been like uh, two to 300s around the time of the Council of Nicaea is when the Mithra worship would have been at a height. This was later a bit more perverse version of Rome.
It still sounds like Enlil involvement, but what I found out, what Bjorn and I found out was that Mithras, I've heard both of them, where he was involved in covenants and contracts, and that he would pen contracts for whatever demigod or deity was trying to integrate a religion in where, from what I we've managed to figure out.
And now we'll go into Yule. No, I don't want your newsletter. Yule was the pagan Norse Germanic celebration. It usually encompassed large bonfires, feasting, and early Christmas tree traditions, and was meant to symbolize the return of the sun because the return, the way that ancient calendars worked, everything was based off the sun. And our modern calendars were set up initially by Julius Caesar, and then Pope Gregory amended them to fix the fact that Julius Caesar didn't really account for a leap year. So by that point, by like the 1500s, the calendar was about 10 days off. So he added the leap year. But in pagan holiday things, it's already set up differently than how we would view the beginning of seasons and things. And that is due to Julius Caesar when he was Pontifex Maximus in ancient Rome, sort of neglecting his calendar needs. So right now is actually the heart of winter, the darkest day, the middle of winter. Winter would have started at Halloween and gone until Imbolc in, uh, I believe, February, and would that is winter. Spring is Imbolc to basically May. Summer is May through the summer solstice, which is actually the height of summer, to about early August. August to Halloween is fall. So basically, if you're in the northern hemisphere and you think, oh, it feels like this, even though it's not officially this season yet, it's that season. Julius Caesar neglected and threw the calendar off 2 months and then didn't basically adjust the beginning and end dates of them and just used the height of them as the beginning of them, which messed up our understanding of the seasons exactly, but there really wasn't much he could do at that point. I'm not saying it's right, but it's definitely not uh, entirely wrong. But Yule is also where we get ideas of mistletoe, as it was essentially a parasitic plant, but it was an evergreen, so it stayed with its berries and stuff through the winter and was a fertility symbol. It's also where we get the idea of like Christmas trees, because the pagans would bring in trees and decorate them as a sign that these are things that sustained through the winter. Um, but and it was also a time when you had just killed off all of your livestock for the winter because not all of them would have made it through. So you'd keep the breeding groups, and but all the extras you would cull, and there would be an abundance of food that you'd have to use. So it was time for like basically one big last feast before the sort of barren time of winter. And you would go in to these traditions and have merriment, but there was always this idea that outside there are spirits, there are otherworldly beings that are also that are descending on our world for this darker period, and this is our way of keeping them at bay. Fires, feasting, joy, to keep away these darker elements. And to get back to the heart of it is that all these things coalesced into our modern Christmas tradition, that we have parties. That's Saturnalia's influence. We have feasts. That's a Yule implement. And we have feasts and tree decorating. That's Yule. We have a god that, well, if you're a Christian, we have a god that was born in a pasture that came from the Mithra worship. We have just basically Christmas is an amalgam holiday meant to co-opt this winter solstice celebration period and justify it in a way, because if we really want to go through the story of the birth of Jesus Christ, it likely happened in the spring or the fall. Shepherds don't tend their flocks by night during the dead of winter.
No.
Those flocks are brought in for milking so that you can continue production of food during this time when food is scarce everywhere else. Flocks are brought in to slowly cull them because you won't have enough food, most likely, to get through the winter yourself, or especially if you're feeding stuff. All of that is extremely important when you look at the fact that Jesus Christ would have been born probably in the spring or the fall, when shepherds are moving the flocks to summer pasturage or are bringing them back. So why now are we celebrating at this time? It's because the winter solstice time period was the most important religious celebratory time even in the ancient world prior to this. And it's because they needed to co-opt this Christianity religion and justify it to the people. And it was far more important to pull that in and co-opt those things so that the people were willing to accept it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was tactfully done. It was common. It's how the Romans did a lot of things. And then we just kept adding traditions from different time periods afterward. But the Christmas we celebrate today is an amalgam, mostly, like the most of our core traditions are the ancient ones mixed with a Victorian ending of the big raucous party and bringing it back into the household. And then a very American view from post World War II and going into World War II era of like a domestic affair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It is modern Christmas is influenced by all these things and will continue to be influenced by societal change until it's never celebrated again.
mm-hmm. And I feel, the whole covenant thing is, think of what they do every year around this time. They've heavily commercialized it as well. So you have like this money contract binding thing in there as well. This is where the Mithras thing, I believe, or Mithra thing comes in, because the whole binding of the covenant in this. Hollywood works this way with their music contracts and their music industry and everything. This is what we learned from doing the channelings with Michael Jackson as well. It's the same thing, where they just relocated it somewhere else in a different, repurposed it. So repackaged it pretty much and regifted it. So what also we figured out in the Christ episode of GIC was the other aspect of it, where Enlil / Loki / Saturn was actually influencing the creation of Christianity via the energies, and also getting them to pay homage via sacrifice in the background. So with the children. So and that's where some of the Jesus story came in the Roman period. Now, what you were saying in the Persian period, that's where you get the whole baby being found in the cornfield, basically, kind of
Mm-hmm.
area. So where the church just stole all these things, stole these stories and reamalgamated, and voila, you have Christianity. But from what I saw, what the Jesus figure that existed in the time of Caesar was, or Octavian rather, um, whereas this figure was going around and planning the religion being formed. Basically, you were seeing a Roman operative that was actually being shallowed by Enlil at the time to basically form these parts and pieces. He's sitting in a different dimension somewhere. So you need an intermediary, somebody that actually can channel this through. we're seeing two different events. The other thing where you have the Mithra story, and then you have the Rome reappropriating it and planning out how they're going to redistribute it. So this is what this sounds like to me, and I'm getting this major validation as I'm saying this. They just repackaged it and redistribute it. And I heard Odin saying when you said Santa Claus's sleigh was being drawn by, was it turkeys? I heard him saying it was basically Loki slash Enlil basically making fun of the All Father, pretty much. So, or making like a parody of him, or getting people
Well,
to make a parody of
yes, another one of these traditions that I didn't go into too heavily is the night sky ride. In ancient times, the first sky rider was Odin, and he would lead the wild hunt during this period to hunt down monsters. And it was done. It was a view that like Odin is watching and more present in the world during this time of the year than any other deity was. And that view, it was then turned into the Santa Claus Skyrider thing after being co-opted by the Christians as Saint Nicholas, as Santa Claus.
Yeah, and it's a merging of Saint Nicholas of Myra and Odin, and the eight reindeer. Or was it the eight reindeer, or the eight-legged horse of Odin's, and then the elves in the workshop would be basically the dwarfish builders of the Bifrost. So you have them basically being co-opted. That way, making them look more playful rather than fierce, and more. This is basically Odin's time of year. I can see why he's been coming in so strong lately. It's because this is considered to be his time of the year. Of how he would present himself. Like you said, the wild hunt, the hunting of monsters, and also why it has been so damn strong lately with getting sucker punched, getting Jinn intrusions, and also what you were saying about the firelight earlier. This is actually what struck me. This is something that I noticed if I have those quick flashing lights, that you have around Halloween. You know how you have Halloween decorations that have those leads that flash really, really quick.
Yeah.
And I have a light back here that does the same thing. I'll even show it here. This UFO lamp that I have sitting up here, right there, uh, and with the quick flashing lights right there. I came and I wanted some lights in this room. I figured I had to have something lit up in here, and I have a candle flame going at all times during sessions as well. So what? And then lighting the fire during solstice is actually important, or being around lights. We're going to be at Busch Gardens later. We're going to be around the big flashing lights and everything. Came to find out, Jinn are heavily repelled by quickly flashing lights, like what this lamp is, and it's begun to burn out because things have been attacking that light. And I also have a ghost lamp out in the workshop that has the quick flashing lights from Halloween. When that burned out, and I had a carousel one going as well, when those burned out, the Jinn started approaching again. And I was like, why is this? Because the certain color flashes and the quick flashing, the same thing with flags that I have outside that have the colors moving in the wind and everything. I came out, it's the quick color movement and the brightness of the energy and the flashing of the lights and also the firelight that purifies. It's also the light movements. It's not just the fire. I came to find out the fire helps immensely, but this is which I found very, very interesting, that you had to have quick moving colors to be able to repel. The Tibetans figured this out with the flags and everything. At first, I thought it was just the prayers on the flags. It was primarily the colors, and I'm like, all right, the prayers helped. I mean, and the emblems helped, and also, of course, our sigils and stuff help as well. But the quick moving lights, also the lights of the Christmas tree, I came to find out that was also linked to the Sumerian story of the Anunnaki and the Tree of Life, where you see the two bird people around the big tree, and that's basically them genetically engineering humanity. I came to find out those things were kind of related as well. And Christianity stole that, and then it was regurgitated later on as a Christmas tree with the bulbs hanging, or with the ornaments hanging on it. So and the ornaments originally were supposed to be like genomic uh, structure from earlier on. But yeah, this is actually quite interesting. This has gone this route, and I know there was something I'm missing here. Yeah, with the quickly moving colors. I also came to find out that people are going to find this stupid, but I got this, and I can't actually show what it does because, of course, something burnt out the fan in this. But you see this bottle here with the spider sitting in it.
Yeah,
It's the fan ain't working at the moment. But you know how paranormal activity drains batteries like absolute mad. Uh,
yeah,
uh, when I'm running this lamp, and it will whirl those little bats around the spider and everything. And it says deadly poison. I'm thinking writing to Jinn or to demonic presence on the side as well, because I've noticed the movement keeps this away. I'm going, this is very interesting. I'm watching things actually scatter when I turn on these lamps. And I'm going, what in the hell is this all about? It's the same as what you just mentioned. The celebration of lights, the keeping, keeping away, keeping the firelight lit, that kind of
yeah.
thing. Same
The yeah, I mean, all those lights are meant to mimic candles. They used to put candles on trees and things, but
thing.
it's a fire hazard because you have a dead tree that you have fire on.
Yeah. Yeah, and but yeah, I have a candle going right here, and I was always told during my sessions, especially this time of year, have a firelight lit somewhere, a real one as well, and that's what I did, and I find it quite fascinating that even still colors like these actually do work as well. Kind of like this light string I have right here, and our
Mm-hmm.
Christmas tree in the other room. No negative entities want to go near it. The only things that go near it that are mischievous are brownies. They wreak holy freaking havoc on it. They're the only ones that I have seen so far that can go near it. And brownies are absolutely obnoxious if you piss them off. If you don't, they feel you're not cleansing the environment, they will start cursing at you. So it was like, they're like Dobby the house elf in Harry Potter. That's essentially what you see see them sweeping and doing stuff like that. Yeah,
Think
but
about it this way: predators don't like the light.
yeah, yeah, and I was told in my workshop have strings of lights in there, colorful lights in there, and but like anybody, a paranormal investigator knows, ghost entities will go for anything with a battery connection or a battery in them. I would highly recommend having something with a cord that plugs in when you do this and have the lights. This light, you can tell it's already out, and they burn the connections in that particular one to where it only stays on for a short time. That UFO lamp up there. This one over here, I put a fresh battery in here. Within an hour, it's dead. Because they go straight for the thing that's trying to repel them, they want it out of the way. So I would highly recommend anybody listening have something that plugs in, because then they're not going to screw with it.
The LED strip lights work really well.
Yeah, they do. I'm gonna make this a permanent, not like this a permanent presence, but I'm gonna get something similar to it as a permanent fixture in here. You'll see.
Then, in fact, if your computer has like RGB in like the keyboard or in the tower itself, that also does it.
Mm-hmm.
And it keeps them
Yes.
away from your tech.
Yes, absolutely. A friend of mine that has this big command center for tech, it is completely lit up, and I was wondering how the entities were staying away from his equipment. I'm looking at it, and it is just full of the colorful flashing LEDs. I'm thinking that's how. So, and also we use colors to cover our screens, like the red cloth over TVs and screens. That still works. Some gin think, oh, you've already signed a contract. There's already been some kind of sacrifice or something, which I did want to point out with the whole sacrificing of animals during Saturnalia. There's our Satanist groups that do the same thing and celebrate their origins back to the same period as well. Unfortunately, in Nebraska, they've been busted a number of times doing this, by the way. They've spawned off into the really ugly, horrible shit that they do this time of year from Halloween on. So that's where some of that got some of it its influence from. And also, Satan also means opposer to the church. It also means from Saturn. There's several different factions here. People like to group Luciferian and Satanism into one thing, and it's all these separate little things, or it's at least two big ones, and there are three big ones. But anyway, because they confuse it with the Kabbalist, Luciferian cultist, because there's so many demigods involved. You have Mithra involved as well, and I thought that was just going to be another Enlil regurgitation, but it ends up being his pen writer, the one that if you heard of like also Genie in the Lamp, the Three Wishes, and also you have contracts. like life contracts, that whole bit. Anything to do with contracts or some kind of deal, that's a Jinn thing. And that's a Persian world thing. So Mithra, from what Bjorn and I were able to find out not that long ago, Mithra's name came up in Channel. That is the Jinn associated with Enlil, basically his pen writer or contract writer kind of deal. Because you would have with beings that are in different dimensions, you'd have to have other components in there to get to ground level here, kind of like an electrical plant it meets a basically meets a substation meets a house. We're at house level. You have another dimensional space that would be the substation. Then you have the electrical plant over here, which would be like a big oversoul. So these are the dimensional layers, how they kind of would operate or seem from our perspective. So I'm at a point where I could go into question answer. So let me see here. Hmm. I know Odin has been chomping at the bit here to get a word in edgewise here. So, all right. Okay. All right. Let's. I can't do the fire pit today. I will be gone. So this will have to do. As long as a fire is present, yes, I have candle. All right. And lights. All right. Yeah. I get it. Hey, Odin, you can come in. Yes. This, you could honestly say, is my month, but one could argue just a little bit that from Halloween on is my time. As you said, Ryan, the you said Julius Caesar screwed up that whole period of time. Yes, you could equate it to human laziness, of course. It's like, I'll fix this later. Kind of like how people now say, I'll fix it in post. That kind of thing. Of course. But there's outside influence as well, where some of my enemies wanted that time frame screwed up. Now, I have come back into the fray after a long period of time. One would argue that I was never gone, which I'd appreciated immensely. But now, what I'm about to say that is most relevant to this conversation, it's not necessarily about me per se. It's about what the energies that I am actually trying to reintegrate back into the fold. Not necessarily for worship purposes. I want to make this clear. I have no interest in worship, no interest in glory in the Valhalla. But the whole point of Valhalla Soltra, no more, is this. There were stories told about me by my children and family and groups that I associate with, dimensional groups such as Valkyrie and all of them, that have been mistold and have been integrated into Orion, not only Orion Soul Trade, but Soul Trade in general. Also, your SSP, integrating the whole Valkyrie story into their soul relocation program, where they would take the heads of people, even Vikings, pose in time travel programs as Valkyrie, and put them on other planets to create colonies in time, somewhere in time and space. The Valkyrie themselves are abhorrent to being mimicked because they were not able to put a stop to that practice in some of your time travel projects. But this is not why I am talking. They just wanted that relayed. People can look at their story if they want to know more, but I do want to say the Valhalla, as it was standing, was not necessarily what it appeared to be. It was via a Martian soul trap that would take people into the Ragnarok back through time. This was also integrated into your time travel projects. I do not wish anything glory in my name in that area. If I wish to lead, if I wish to point out something, if I wish to accomplish something, even on Midgard, I just do it. I do not say that I'm going to do it. except if I'm just about to do it. I do not mince words. I'm usually a few words, but in this case, I am rather wordy. So, what do you wish to know, Ryan?
Well, what do you foresee as the changes that will go forward to the traditions this time of the year?
Hmm. They are being reset, you see, to the original alignment. Even though the alignments of the Earth and planets have changed drastically since then, they will be readapted to those alignments. Not on the 25th that Mithra is assigned with, or my, let's say, my bastard son, which the 25th adds up to a 7. That's the one you know of as Michael Muse. That is Enlil. And also the Jesus story, that's his baby. No pun intended. The changes that I wish to make and that I wish people to understand is this. The commercialization, even though people are gaining money off of the, the holiday season, understandable, but leaving room for others to reintegrate into the celebration of the period, the time of lights, the time of reflection, and the time of seeing this dark time and reflecting upon what needs to be reflected upon, and the battles that must be won, the war internally and externally that must be waged, the warrior or the monk, whatever you happen to be, must be reflected upon in this dark time. The distraction that came along was that of, say, your Black Friday for Thanksgiving, your commercialism of the holiday season, and then the contract that bound within the financial system, the money system, not abundance. Abundance is separate, you see. One creates the other. I know he, before recording, was saying money was needed to create these other things. Yes, but abundance then there brings in from energy to abundance to that of the money not linked to the contract system that is of the Mithra born contract. You see. So therefore, the bastardization is the capitalization of Christmas. And it is really a reverence for this dark time. You say the solstice, but it is actually the entire season. You would say from August, as you would say, is it's starting to feel like winter. Some people say it's starting to feel look a lot, or feel like Christmas. Yes, but it will not be called Christmas after a while. Some people will come up with their own name, but most will go back to the time of the solstice, of the dark period. And it doesn't mean dark magic, it means dark period, a time without the sun. Mithra, the sun bringer, does this not sound familiar? This would be Lucifer, the light bearer, as well as Enlil, but you see the whole thing got confused because the son is the father is the son. Zeus and Apollo, the father is the son is the father, as well as Yahweh, Jesus. This got confused over a period of time. Mithra was the agent thereof, but the agent often legally is bound as that of the original bearer. So this is where this came in play. Also, Darshenian magic, that of Cassiopeia, integrating from Persia as well, bringing in some of the past jinn that were also, how can I put this? He pointed out they looked and act like fish type beings, the coloring being almost like a bioluminescence in a way, the different colors that the jinn are and the different power levels. They are interdimensional, but yes, some were based off of fishish life forms and other dimensional beings that were bound into the threads of fate, like you see in Greek mythology. These were also jinn that Enlil made to bind and weave people into a lifetime of servitude into the timelines that he chose, not to the timelines that the great Yggdrasil tree allowed for. Very much like in your Loki series, where He Who Remains bound the timelines into the sacred timeline. This is the story that was being told. Also, the Gardner family pruning the timelines for the Kabbalist families, if this makes sense.
Yes, it makes sense.
Cool.
And then my only other question is, what is your message to humanity on this important day in the solar calendar?
Hmm. The message I have is this: reflect on what is true. Reflect on what is true, not just to you, but reflect on your inner and outer worlds. What is needed to remain? What is needed to be gone? What needs to have the sword drawn on? And what does not? The warrior is always present, no matter what has been said. It is not transmuting, it is not changing, it is ever present. The all other sides, the yin and yang, the dualism. My son lied, my bastard son lied, and said that this was turning into a singularity. No, no, that is impossible in your realm. It is impossible. You have a decision, either a good one or a bad one to make. You either have the dark or the light, but they are combined within you. Just like you saw in Star Wars, even though they tried to separate them, they are both within you. That's where the singularity is. Now, with that in your life. If something is not functioning as it should, therefore are blockages that must be reflected upon. There are unions that must be reflected upon, those that either need to dissolve or need to strengthen. The family unit must be strengthened. The masculine and the feminine must be strengthened. The identity of self must be strengthened. All of these things must be strengthened within this time of year. This is why I harped at him to get a couple of the projects done and got frustrated with him and Bjorn in the fact that they were focusing on one aspect, which would be money aspect, versus that of the abundance that would build to that. The Valkyrie called it abundize, like monetizing or abundance. That's a cute little term, like you're cooking a food item. I am just saying the energies are the primary focus. All other things fall beneath it. I know this is easy for a dimensional being such as myself to say, and that you have had Jin screwing around with your threads of fate and money system for a long time. But just like you saw in your Kingdoms of Amalur game, where all the threads of fate or the theater of fate had to have somebody outside of all of that to deal with what was actually going on. Very similar. You must step outside some of these threads in your own life and look at what the theater in front of you has been play acted to create. If this makes sense to anyone out there.
Okay. I think then it's just time for final remarks from you, my guy.
Hmm. I I do apologize for the pushiness of the downloads. He is the same way, whereas if something is out of place or amiss, and the timing thereof is crucial, therefore I do push this. And yes, unfortunately, have I done tests of inner self and inner retrospection on people. I know the Galactic Federation has their repetitious naval-like tests, which drive me absolutely insane. But the ones that test the heart, those are me. The ones that test the mind and test the mental, there are a few, but that is mostly a Valiant Thor and his dumb fuckery. So, I will throw him under the bus in my final words, but in this moment, reflect on this, reflect on what this means for you. Do not worship myself, do not give reverence to that of death or the unbirthed times or the, how can I put it, those of the downtrodden. Focus on that of what this darker time means and what then will be rebirth in the revealing of the sun when it returns. So, this is all I have to say, unless you have more for me.
No, I think I'm good.
Hmm. All right. So, I send blessings to all that listened to this recording. I will push him to put this up in a timely fashion. He tends to, as much as he thinks he's moving quickly, there's a time cruciality to this. So I will leave everyone to this. And good day. And happy solstice to those that revere this time within its original context, other than what my bastard son and his Jinn servants have wrought. So, goodbye.
Bye.
All right. Whew. he blew through that really quickly. But he does this where if anybody knew an Odin download, it is this massive, like a lightning bolt kind of thing that comes down through you. And it's one of those things where then you begin to unpack it down here. It begins to unfold and then alter the space around you. And any download does this, but his seemed to be the most noticeable and notable. So, out of all of them, the Force people have done this too. They've done this quite a bit. And when they wanted to get on the Galactic Senate, they showed exactly how to make that happen with the stickers and the sigils and how they wanted to bring their messages through and everything. When you get a sense of urgency, and I must say, honor this. Your intuition tells you it's good. But there are also false senses of urgency. You have to know what's around you and what the voices in the ether are. And you don't have to necessarily hear them to understand this. You have to go with, if it doesn't feel right, don't go with it. If it does, go with it. Don't just do it because a being is pushing that on you. You must question, but it also, at the end of the day, goes how you feel about it, whether it's yay or nay. So, Ryan, I don't know if you have anything else to add here.
Happy solstice and may the light return.
Yes, happy solstice. May the light return as well. That is a good place to end this. So I thank everybody for watching this special episode of The Lifting. Go check out GIC, the Christ episode that we did over there. Check out that channel, Galactic Interversal Consortium. Also go to @The Lifting Presents. All of anything we've ever done, with the exception of Conspiracy Sector and GIC, are over there. Those will be their separate channels, of course. So thank you, everybody. And this is now where I close this circle within true benevolence and no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. So thank you, everybody. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Okay, what we missed on that episode was one thing that Ryan was talking about the offset of the months and everything, and Julius Caesar going, oh, whoopsie. What was actually was Odin was inferring that it was intentional to throw everyone off so they didn't know the PowerPoints of the year, as well as because they weren't that stupid. Somebody that could burn down the library at Alexandria, take all the information from there and take it to Rome, and now it's the Vatican Library. Somebody that can plan that meticulous stuff out, and an empire that can plan out the whole religion surrounding Jesus Christ, they're not going to go whoopsie on something like that. I don't buy that. That and Julius Caesar added in July for his month, and Augustus, which is Octavian, is August, and December was supposed to be 10 Deca, but it became 12 and got pushed ahead. Everything got bollocksed up. So that's part of that story too that we ended up leaving out, but that's part of that as well. So I just wanted to make sure that was part of this recording. Right, as we go to Busch Gardens here. So it is 1:07 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Sunday, December 21st, 2025. Thank you.